Okay, first one, gluteus maximus. The origin is the upper portion of the ilium, the sacrum, and the coccyx. The insertion is the gluteal tuberosity and iliotibial tract. The action is the principal extensor and lateral rotator of the thigh. Next is the gluteus medius, which is right here. The origin is the lateral surface of the ilium, the insertion is the greater trochanter of the femur, and the action is the abduction and medial rotation of the thigh. Next is the piriformis, which is number 5, the piriformis. The origin is the anterior surface of the sacrum, the insertion is the greater trochanter of the femur, and the action is that it abducts the thigh. Next is the quadratus femoris, which is number 8, down here. The origin is the ischial tuberosity. The insertion is the elevation superior to mid-portion of the intertrochanteric crest on the posterior femur, and the insertion is the laterally rotates and stabilizes the hip joint. Next is the posterius major, which is up here. The posterius major, the origin is the transverse process of bodies of lumbar vertebrae. The insertion is the lesser trochanter of the femur with the iliacus. The action is that it flexes thigh at the hip joint. Next is the iliacus, which is right in here. This is the ilia. This is the iliacus. The origin is the iliac fossa and lateral margin of the sacrum. The insertion is the lesser trochanter of the femur with posterius major, and the action is the flexus thigh at the hip joint. Next comes biceps femoris, which is number 18. This is the biceps femoris on the back of the leg. The origin is the long head is the ischial tuberosity. The short head is the lateral supracondylar ridge of femur. The insertion is the head of fibula and lateral condyle of tibia. The action of the biceps femoris is the extension of the thigh. Next is the semimembranosus, which is number 17. The origin is the ischial tuberosity. The semimembranosus is right here, number 16. This is the semimembranosus, number 16. The origin is the ischial tuberosity. The insertion is the medial condyle of tibia, and the action is the extension of the thigh. Right next to it, right here, this little one, number 17, is the semitendinosus. The origin is the ischial tuberosity. The insertion is the medial condyle of the tibia, and the action is the extension of the thigh. Next comes the sartorius, which is this big, long one. It's the longest one of the body. The origin is the anterior superior iliac spine. The insertion is the medial surface of tibia near the knee joint, and the action is the flexion, abduction, and lateral rotation of the thigh. Next comes right up here, the tensor fasciae latae, or latae. The origin is the anterior superior iliac spine of ilium. The insertion is the iliotibial tract. The action is that it flexes the thigh and abducts the thigh. Next is quadriceps femoris, which is right here, or rectus femoris. This is rectus femoris. The origin is the anterior inferior iliac spine and upper margin of acetabulum. The insertion is the tibial tuberosity, and the action is the extension of the leg. Next is the vastus lateralis, which is right here. It is lateral to the rectus femoris. So rectus femoris, vastus lateralis. This is the knee. So right by the knee. The origin is the intertrochanter line and linea asperis of the femur. The insertion is the tibial tuberosity, and the action is that it extends the leg. Next is the vastus medialis, which is on the medial side of the upper knee, or medial side of the thigh, right above the knee. The origin is the intertrochanter line and the linea asperis of the femur. The insertion is the tibial tuberosity, and the action is the extension of the leg. That's the vastus lateralis, vastus intermedius. No, I'm sorry. This is the vastus lateralis. No, medialis. Oh, God. All right, redo. Rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medius. In here, this is the vastus intermedius. The origin is the upper shaft of the femur. The insertion is the tibial tuberosity, and the action is that it extends the leg. Next is number 13, which which is the adductor longus. And number 13 is right here. This is number 13. It's the adductor longus. We have to move the sartorius to really see it. The origin is the body of the pubic bone. The insertion is the middle third of linea aspera, and the action is the adduction and flexion of the thigh. Number 14 is the adductor magnus, which is over here on this side. This is the adductor magnus. The origin is the ischial tuberosity of ischium, or the ramus of ischium, or the inferior ramus of pubic bone. The insertion is the linea aspera. The action is the adduction and flexion of thigh. Number 15, this long one right here, is gracilis. It is the origin is the body and inferior ramus of pubic bone. The insertion is medial surface of tibia near the knee joint, and the action is it adducts the thigh at the hip joint. Next is tibialis posterior. So we're going to move down to the tibialis, which number 28 is the tibialis.
Oh, pectineus.
Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot about the pectineus. The pectineus is number 12, which is right up here. This little one is the pectineus. The origin is the superior ramus of the pubis. The insertion is just inferior to the lesser trochanter, and it adducts and flexes the thigh.